Good evening, everyone. It's time for Necromaniacs podcast. How's it going, Mike? Everything going good in your corner?
Things are well. As Mr. Hill just said, you're listening to the Necromaniacs podcast, the horror podcast. Kids, we're back. It's Thursday. Well, it's not Thursday while we're taping this, but it's Thursday when you're hearing it, and it's May.
Yeah.
It's May. It's spring. I'm freezing in my apartment because the heat is off and it's still cold out. But it is spring, Mike, right? It is?
Yeah, it's a little nippy out, though, but it's definitely spring. Yeah.
It's definitely spring. I have a cold / or allergies. I'm taking Mucinex. Got a little bit of something going on. But it is not Rona. I tested Rona, what was it, Saturday? Just about 3 days ago. So, I'm good there. And I think I'm going to test myself again before the weekend, because I got a couple of shows I'm going to this weekend. What a shock! So yeah, I think I just got a little cold.
I got myself a nice little skin rash here. It's either it's either ringworm or staph.
Oh my God.
So
Good Lord!
I got to go to the
Where have
doctor.
you been?
It's you get it from the mats and fucking training and all
yeah.
that. And I've had all those things before, so I got to go and get some antibiotics tomorrow morning and clear it up.
Yeah, Mike Hill. Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
These in shape people, I tell you, man. They're, you can't leave the house. These people.
Yeah, it was a bummer, man. Like a couple of days ago, I'm like, oh, what's this thing on my chest? And it's like, oh man. So I'm going to go get checked out tomorrow. Get some antibiotics. Get that taken care of.
All right, we've TMI'd our listeners, but these things happen, man. These things fucking happen. But yeah, things are cool. As I'm waiting for the truly nice weather to kick in, I've been busy. Watching stuff and going to shows. This past week alone, I saw classic thrash metal, Mike Hill. I went to see Testament and Exodus out in Long Island at the Paramount, which is a really nice club. You ever been there?
You know what? I haven't actually, but I what town is that in on Long Island?
Oh my God, I can't think of the name of the town.
It's like Mineola or something like that.
Not Mineola. It's a little far out there though. It's about an hour and change from me. Almost an hour and a
like
half.
Suffolk. It's like Suffolk County.
Might be either the beginning, Suffolk, and Nassau. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But it's a really cool club. I was there years back to see Danzig with COC. Danzig played there years back. And I think they did a little bit of a remodel since then. But really cool. We missed Death Angel. Got there a little late because, how early can one get there from, Dyker Heights on a freaking weeknight, when everybody's like working and you're dealing with traffic. Like Death Angel went on at like 6:50.
Oh yeah.
A little early.
Yeah.
Because they're giving, Testament and Exodus like full hour sets and changeover and yada yada. But it was Exodus then Testament. I believe they're kind of like switching it up with the headliners, I think. But while both bands were great, I think Exodus had the edge. I think they kicked a little more ass for me, I thought.
Well, their most recent record is pretty sick, actually.
Yeah, like when they put out new records, man, they don't put out these. There's nothing light about their new material. Kind of like New Overkill. It's very like hard, And Testament are the more melodic band, and there's always a definite difference in the sound between those two bands. But I think Exodus go a little harder, and it was just a little more fun to watch.
You also went to another really good show that I was thinking about going to, but I did not go to.
Yes, went to Vitus to see Rotting Christ and Borknagar. Two pretty big bands in the black metal world, really. And it's funny, many moons ago, I saw Borknagar's like first show in New York, like ever, when they did the tour with Emperor, when it was Emperor's first U.S. tour, which was, I believe, in 97 or 98, actually. And I think Usurper was on that show, too. It was this crazy show at this club around the corner from the Limelight in Manhattan. Tramps, actually, Club Tramps. Remember Tramps?
I do actually remember
Yeah, yeah.
Tramps.
So, um, yeah, this club, I mean, look, St. Vitus, many listeners from the New York or New Jersey area, they've probably been there many times. Um, this whole tour initially had 6 bands on it. And then that show was earlier in the day and that was sold out. And then they added a second show because, I mean, it's the fucking New York City market. And this club is way too small to have this bill anyway. So they added a second show with just Borknagar and Rotting Christ, which was the show we went to. And that was also sold out. So, you know, I don't know. Like going to Vitus, like seeing shows there. But I feel like this particular show would have been a lot more fun at a bigger room because of the type of bands they were. You know what I'm saying?
Honestly, I would be a little bummed out, I think, if I was on that Devastation Across the Nation tour.
Devastation Across the Nation, yep.
And I rolled up to Vitus, and nothing, no disrespect to St. Vitus, because that's a luminary New York club at this point. But, those guys could have easily played, I think, like Warsaw or a bigger venue and a better sound system. And
or Gramercy.
Yeah, Gramercy, yeah.
But what's funny is that this was the date booked even in 2020 because this tour goes back to 2020, and I believe the New York City date back then was in April. And it's funny, they had the merch for the 2020 and the 2022 merch. Isn't that cool? Because they were kind of sitting on it, and yeah, people were buying the old and new merch. They had like 2 old designs and a bunch of new designs, but anyway, yeah. Enjoyed the hell out of it. Their bands, both bands were fucking awesome. But like the music of Borknagar, I don't know, it's very epic, epic kind of black metal. Man, not even really black metal anymore. Like they kind of used to be black metal. Now they're just this very kind of like, again, epic kind of metal. That's the best word I could use. Has heavy like Norwegian pagan kind of, vibes, of course. And while it was fun to see in a small club, I would have preferred it in a bigger club for a bigger sound and bigger visual,
Yeah, and that's exactly the point I was trying to make. It's like the sound system there. I think a band like Borknagar needs like a big PA with like, production.
Yeah.
Their production,
Right. So I imagine they probably scaled it back a bit. And Rotting Christ, it's funny, I couldn't remember if I had seen them before. I feel like I did a long time ago. But they were just really, really good. I mean, they had the fucking crowd. I mean, they put on quite a fucking show, man. I mean, I would definitely see them again if they came back. Of course, same for Borknagar. But and this coming weekend, I'm going to the big New York hardcore yearly festival, the Black and Blue Bowl. My brother Mark's band Shutdown is playing it on Sunday. And then Saturday, Agnostic Front, Sick of It All, Ignite, and Murphy's Law playing it. So it should be a good time. Sub-Zero's on the Saturday show.
Nice. Yeah.
And the Sunday show also has Madball and Burn. So it should be a lot of fun.
I leave for tour next week, so I'm like in the middle of getting ready, preparation, and so I'm probably just chilling the next couple days. Actually, when this airs, I will be leaving the very next day. So this airs, and then I go away, and I'll be gone.
So listeners, go out and see Tombs with Origin.
And Abysmal Dawn, too. And
Abysmal Dawn, yes. Yeah. Check that tour out.
So
if it comes to your town.
Hopefully I'll be seeing some of you guys out there.
Yeah. Let's get to the plugs, shall we?
Yes, we shall.
Of course. Yes, we shall. We want you to support the Horror Wolf 666 podcast. Check out the Break the Apocalypse podcast featuring my actual brother, John Draper, although we do not have the same last name. How about that, folks?
I can never figure out why you guys had. I've known you guys for years. You had 2 different names. That's fucking
it's
crazy.
One of those things, John's dad was a very sketchy ad sales guy who was quite the philanderer, and that's what happens. John Draper. Check out Agitators Anonymous. I love that podcast, Mike. Today's episode, folks, on Agitators was all about the history of the band Bathory. A couple of weeks back, he did an episode about literally Countess Bathory, the historical figure. Today was about the band Bathory, so that was cool. He's like a super fan, so that was a lot of fun. And you have to support Into the Necrosphere podcast, right, Michael?
That's right. That's absolutely right. Good friend. Actually, Brandon and Jackie are really good friends of mine. And
Oh, totally.
you know, I keep talking about how cool it was to hang out with Brandon on this last run of dates we did about a month. Well, at this stage, like about a month ago, maybe I was down there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Did I leave anybody out of the plugs?
Yes, we left out at my other podcast. Everything went
That's
black.
right.
So, but I want to tell you something. I want you all to know that between all these shows, we have a solid week covered, man. Like you get Monday through Friday, incredible
Pretty
content.
much.
On Monday, you got Horror Wolf. On Tuesday, you got Into the Necrosphere. On Wednesday, you got Everything Went Black. On Thursday, you got Necromaniacs. And on Friday, you got Break the Apocalypse.
That is 100% accurate. Yes.
So you can just tune in, man, to this like conglomeration of podcasts, and you're all set, man. You're good.
That's all you need, folks. I mean, what else do you need? And you need, maybe some water and some sleep.
Yeah.
But, other than that, you should be all set in life. There's actually one other podcast I listen to. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, folks, but there's one I enjoy. Any of our more hardcore inclined fans, the Axe to Grind podcast. You familiar with that one, Michael?
No. What's that one all about?
That comes out every Tuesday, actually. Listened to it this morning. It's been around a couple of years. I mean, it kind of runs the gamut. They talk about hardcore and hardcore bands and music and shows in general from the 80s, 90s, O's to today. Tom Sheehan from Indecision, one of my old friends, is one of the co-hosts, along with Patrick Kinlan, the singer of the band Drug Church, which is a cool band out there making a lot of noise. It's a cool show. Yeah.
I saw Drug Church. I saw them. They played with Dead Guy out here in Garwood, New Jersey.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was a Dead Guy show. You know how like they're doing shows again. And
that's right.
Yeah, they played like 15 minutes from where I live in this town called Garwood, and one of the bands on the bill was Drug Church.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
their band I like. I've been listening to for a good little while, like a year and a half, and I still haven't seen them yet. But hopefully, at some point this year, I will. Attempted to go see them. They sold out a show in Brooklyn, so couldn't get into that one. So next time their tickets go on sale, I got to get quicker on the ball, Michael.
Yeah.
Oh, aside from that, I fucking finally finished. I wanted to say, Suburban. What do you call it? Brian Keene's.
Suburban Gothic. Yeah. I haven't read that yet. That looks good.
If you thought Urban Gothic was fucked up, Suburban Gothic goes the extra mile. It is fucking demented. It was a very enjoyable book. Brian Keene definitely delivered the sketchy, violent gore this time around. Which it's funny because certain books are a little more subdued and a little more, not so heavy on like the sick things that went down in this book. But yeah, check it out, Suburban Gothic.
The word that comes to mind is extreme. When it comes to that book, that particular. I read Urban Gothic, but I haven't read Suburban Gothic.
That gets extreme. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, extreme.
Totally. Yeah, so now what else I'm reading, folks, is Corporate Rock Sucks, The Rise and Fall of SST Records, Michael.
I got to check that out, man. I have to get my hands on that for sure.
Yeah, I just got that in the mail. I got it from Amazon. I'm kind of like tearing through it. I'm on to like chapter 6 already. I mean, I love Black Flag. Mike Hill, you love Black Flag. Sure. And I love so many of the bands that were on SST and like the whole kind of ethic. And, I have, fond memories of buying SST records as a young lad and ordering shit from them in the mail. So yeah, I'm very curious to see what happened to this label and what is up with Mr. Ginn. And although he is not interviewed in this book, what a
Nah,
surprise!
nah,
He
he's
refused to be. Many people who worked with him are interviewed, as well as bands and people from the era. And so, I'm sure there's, quite a bit of factual things in the book. So, yeah, looking forward to tearing through it even more.
Have you read Bram Stoker's Dracula, the novel?
I read that for the last time, I think, in the very early 90s. So I'm due to reread it. I haven't read it in a while.
I'm rereading it right now. I'm about a little bit more than halfway through, and because I just bought a little while ago, I bought this Penguin hardcover, like a special edition of it,
Nice.
and it's been laying on my bookshelf. I'm like, oh, nice. I got to reread this because I have this cool like version of it now. And man, I would love to see a legit Dracula miniseries, like 6 episodes, kind of told from different characters' perspectives, like similar to the way the book is.
Like that's like super book like driven. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. And like, for the first like 300 pages, like Dracula is like way in the background, except for like the very beginning when he's with Jonathan, at
Right.
Castle Dracula. And Lucy is like, it's mostly about her for like 200 pages.
See, that's the thing. I mean, look, a bunch of the movies have obviously taken pieces of the book or done a good job kind of with their interpretation. But you might be right. As far as a 100% faithful, I don't think there has been as on TV episodically. There may be a movie, but definitely nothing, bigger scale, I think.
I think people the climate right now with shows would be perfect for this, because I mean,
Yeah.
Haunting a Hill House is perfect. That was like,
Well, we are getting an episodic interview with the vampire. Looking forward to that.
yeah, I'm not the
That should be
biggest
cool.
fan of that, but yeah, it's cool.
Okay. See, I like
Yeah.
that. I'm a fan of
Yeah,
Anne
no,
Rice.
I mean it's cool. I don't say it. I don't dislike it, but I'm just I love Dracula, like the novel, and
Mhm.
that version of the character is like really scary.
Yeah, yeah. I think that would be fun. I mean, I would love to even see, maybe even like a Frankenstein like that. Although there have been movies that have gone super book styled, so to speak, Frankenstein movies. So, but yeah, for TV, that would be very interesting. For like
Yeah.
your Netflix, your Hulu, your whatever. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Streaming service.
Yeah, I just
That'd be
picked up this annotated version of Frankenstein too. That's got notes and things like that added to the text.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, there's annotated Sandman out there.
Wow, that's
I've
cool.
always wanted to check that out too. Yeah, I mean that would be fucking fun to read because that show is coming before the end of the year on Netflix. Really excited about that. So, yeah.
Me too, man. Definitely.
Well, folks, it brings us to the movie that we're covering this evening. We've decided to travel back to Italy. We like Italy here on the show. What do you think, Mike?
Definitely, and also the filmmaker, the director, is somewhat. I feel like Michele Soavi's always been a little bit in the shadow of Dario Argento.
Oh well, I was going to say he was. I mean, he was a protege. That's how that's how he kind of came to be. Michele Soavi, was like around for a lot of the kind of the 80s Argento stuff. And the first thing he directed was the really awesome documentary, Dario Argento's World of Horror, back in 1985. That's his first directorial effort. You've seen that doc, right?
Oh,
Mike?
yeah, it's great. It's
Oh,
excellent.
it's fucking awesome, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Really creepy. It's like it's actually a great thing to watch if you're new to Argento. It's like a 101er kind of. Dario Argento's World of Horror. It's out there if you want to check it out.
I think it's on Shudder.
Feeling,
actually, I think it's on Shudder.
Yeah, I think I have a funny feeling a lot of the listeners might have seen it at this point, but I hope they have. But yeah, I mean his first film was Stage Fright in 1987, which is a cool giallo. And his second film is the movie we're covering this evening, The Church, released in March of 1989. Now, Wikipedia lists it as AKA Demons 3. However, it's not Demons 3. What's interesting is that going back to the beginning ideas of this film, apparently they were going to make Demons 3 together, Michele Soavi and Dario, and they even told the press about it and, had some ideas and everything. And then ultimately, Soavi was like, no, we're scrapping this movie. And apparently Argento didn't want to do it. And the whole thing was scrapped. And Soavi and Argento came up with this new film, which we have tonight, The Church.
Yeah. And, the screenplay is credited with, there's 3 writers. It's credited for Dario Argento, Soavi, and Franco Ferrini. And it was directed by Soavi. So, but there was like a little bit of tension over that plot change. And, what's interesting is that you kind of can see how this would fit into the mythos of the Demons movies. With a couple changes here and there, it could fit pretty easily into that, I think.
Oh, totally. I mean, I haven't seen Demons 2 in a while. Like I remember Demons 1, obviously the plot. Demons 2, for some reason, has like escaped my memory. I need to watch it again. I know I enjoyed it. It's definitely not as good as Demons 1, but I guess they kind of didn't want to go back to that well again,
Yeah.
And for his second film, he wanted to go with an original story and something new and exciting.
Now, which Demons movie is the one with the killer soundtrack?
Oh, that's Demons, the original.
Yeah, that has like Fields of the Nephilim.
Yeah, Motley Crue's on there.
The Cult band and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's actually a very cool soundtrack. It has Save Our Souls from Theater of Pain is on there.
That's awesome, man. Perfect.
Yeah, totally. It's it's a very heavy metal-ish horror movie, the original Demons, right?
Yeah, I could say that.
So.
Yeah.
Totally. Something else of note about this movie is that it is one of Asia Argento's first films. She was around 13 years old when she was in this movie, huh?
She actually carried a lot of weight in this film too.
Yes.
Because we're going to get into a little bit of what the plot is, but there's a period piece section of the movie that Asia Argento's in, and then there's a more modern day version. So she plays like
2 roles in a way.
Yeah, 2 different aspects of the same character, because it sort of infers that one is like the reincarnation of the other. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Her character's name is Latte, by the way, Lotte. I will run down the cast. We have Hugh Garcia, played by Hugh Garcia as Father Gus, Thomas Arana as Evan, Asia Argento as Latte, Barbara Cupisti as Lisa, and the ever-loving Giovanni Lombardo Radice as Reverend Dominic. Of course, Giovanni from many Fulci films, and one of his most famous roles is getting his wiener cut off in Cannibal Ferox, Michael.
That's quite a role, actually.
That's quite a role. and his excellent role as David Hess's sidekick in House on the Edge of the Park. I like him in that movie. Met him at the cons. Very nice guy. Really cool. Got his autograph on a few things. Theodore Chaplin as the bishop, John Carlson as Heinrich, John Richardson as the architect, and Michele Soavi as the police officer. I recognized him. He likes to do these little cameos, Michael, in his own films.
Yeah, that's a lot of directors like to do stuff like that.
Yeah, I think Hitchcock was into doing it, and Argento's hands are in a lot of his movie. It's a cool little thing to do.
Probably my favorite. Oh, actually, let's talk about the soundtrack too. The score. It's
yes.
Argento had worked with Keith Emerson from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, obviously, on Inferno. So he thought, hey, let me get Keith to do some stuff for the La Chiesa, the church.
Yep.
So But he didn't like the material he sent over, so
Yes.
he did a bunch of
Didn't like
stuff.
most of it.
Yeah,
Yes.
he only
Most of it
kept
he
like
hated.
there's only 3 tracks that he used,
Uh-huh.
and then
So
there's
he calls in famous Philip Glass has some tracks on this, who's a famous composer in his own right. And then he gets Fabio Pignatelli of Goblin in on there, who is listed. It's listed as Goblin, but it's literally just Fabio. So isn't that interesting?
yeah,
The
definitely.
bassist. Fabio's the bassist of Goblin. It doesn't have any of the other guys, from the crew. Just him.
The
Interesting.
Italians are like that, man. It's funny, like their films. It's like they're very aware of the audience. I think you know what I mean. They're very
Right.
aware of how people are going to react to things, like like maybe calling a film a sequel to another film that it's not actually a sequel to.
Mm.
Like Zombie, and stuff like that is
Oh yeah.
and using Goblin, even though only one member is actually on the track.
Yeah, that's happened before. Like a lot of times in some of his other in Argento's films, it's basically Claudio Simonetti, and he's listed as, hey, it's Goblin, but it's really just Claudio Simonetti.
Yeah,
So
and that actually has kind of like propagated through the years, because there's a lot of different, Goblin. There's Goblin Rebirth or whatever. There's
right.
Goblin. Yeah,
Yeah, Simonetti has his, and then the other 3 guys have theirs. So it's and now I think there's even a splintering within that, if I might be mistaken or not. But yeah, these things happen. It's hard to keep a band together, kids. It's hard.
Don't I know it?
Mike Hill. Oh, Mike Hill. You could tell some tales.
Yeah.
But another reason we wanted to cover this movie, I think, is that I feel like we've thrown Michele Soavi's name around a bunch, yet never actually reviewed any of his actual films. Am I right?
Did we do Dellamorte Dellamore? Like back in the day, maybe, right?
We might have, and it's so funny because if we did do it, it was so long. It was so long ago that we don't really have a good memory of doing it. I will, put it out there and say that that's my favorite film by him, and that's his best work. And it's sad because it's not really that available. In America right now, there was a DVD, but I think the DVD's out of print, and I don't think there's an American Blu-ray of it right now.
I've got a couple versions of that. I got the like a VHS tape of the actual Dellamorte Dellamore European cut. I have Cemetery Man, which is mutilated. That's the U.S. version. And then I have another weird bootleg called Dellamorte Dellamore DVD. That's the. It's not exactly the cut that's on the VHS, but it's pretty close.
Interesting. Yeah. I think the not Blue Underground, the Anchor Bay DVD was complete, but I could be wrong. I thought that actually was complete, but that's long out of print. But the church, La Chiesa, at one point, I believe also, because I had it in my collection, had a Blue Underground disc, unless I'm wrong. It did come out in America, actually, this film. It was released on August 20th, 1990 by TriStar Pictures. But honestly, when they put that out there on Wikipedia, why do I have a feeling that's when it was released on home video? There was no theatrical for this movie in America. Right?
I would be surprised if there was like a theatrical release for this film.
This had to be the home video date, August of 1990. But what's funny is I definitely don't remember seeing it in the video stores. I didn't see this movie until the late 90s, early O's. I saw a VHS copy first from one of my friends. So yeah, weird home video history there. When did you first see this movie, Mike?
It had to be in 2005 or 6 because I rented it from Photoplay.
Okay.
The late great Photoplay that used to be on Manhattan Avenue in Greenpoint. One of the coolest things of that.
It was a cool store, yeah.
Yeah, of that like completely fallen neighborhood. You know, I mean, the neighborhood's it's nice now, but it's not nearly as cool as it used to be. You know, that place is long gone, and you know, I don't.
Yeah, it's hey, we could do a whole episode about that.
Yeah, but yeah, that's when I first saw it. You know, because that was like a gold mine of stuff. I mean, he had everything. I mean, that's where I saw Trouble Every Day. I rented it from him. You know.
Yeah, in 2002, Anchor Bay put it out on DVD. It's long out of print, but yes, there was an '02 DVD of this 1989 film. One of my first notes I wrote about it doing the rewatch was Soavi was very much a student of Argento, and honestly, I mean, it's kind of unavoidable. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, he cut his teeth and was an uber fan. So I mean, it's kind of how could it not be seen in his early works like Stage Fright and The Church?
Yeah, I agree. You know, but there's a huge influence. But I also feel like his films definitely have their own feel to them, though. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
like definitely The Church feels like you get the strong influence of Dario. You know, Dario was like involved in producing it, and but Dellamorte Dellamore, I feel like that was like a very unique film, and that typifies what I think his style was all about, really.
Yeah, I think that's the I've come on my own kind of movie.
Yeah.
I even see like some like Raimi-isms in that movie,
Sure.
right? Like
Yeah.
hardly any Argento-isms for me, at least. It's like a foreign Sam Raimi style movie, whereas this movie, I will say ultimately, while I enjoy this movie, I feel it is overall a fairly weak film, Michael. Like, I don't love it. It's like I enjoyed it and I liked it. I wasn't over the moon with this new viewing. What about you?
It really has a lot of promise. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like the setup, like the beginning scene, like the movie.
Yes,
It
the
starts
beginning.
off in medieval Germany,
Mm-hmm.
and we see the Teutonic Knights, and they were actually a real group of knights. They were like a
Mm-hmm.
real thing that existed, and they were their job was to protect Christians who were traveling to Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
But they all, of course, they were called the Order of the Brothers of the German House of Saint Mary in Jerusalem. That was the formal name of the Teutonic Knights.
Wow.
Yeah, and then of course, they got a little too, overzealous, and just
Oh yeah,
started finding evil. They're looking for evil
everywhere.
everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But the version that we see, they're hunting down these witches, and I thought this whole beginning part of the film I thought was great. They're
Yes, it's probably my favorite part of the film. Honestly, it's the best part of the movie. The
yeah,
beginning.
the knights looked cool. They had these like cool helmets with a cross on it. There was like
Yeah,
this scene where this young witch, and they ferret out these people, and they murder her, but there's like a minute where he takes his helmet off and he's like, you kind of think he might spare her because he's taken by her beauty,
Kind of a brutal scene. Yeah,
Very brutal
beautiful
scene.
woman. Yeah.
And then they massacre this whole town and bury them.
They kill babies.
They kill babies.
They burn down the town.
There's like heads being cut off and being trampled by horses and all this stuff. It's a pretty wild scene, actually.
Yes, like I said, it's my favorite part of the movie. I almost literally wish they stayed in this era, but they had to jump to the late '80s where it gets very late '80s, folks. Literally, like it's visually and the hairstyles and the clothing and
Well, that setup though is like pretty cool because like there's this pit of bodies,
Mm-hmm.
and basically they build a church on top of this thing, this desecrated ground.
Which was, in hindsight, listeners, not the best idea. If you've just massacred a whole village of who you think are devil worshippers and witches, it's not a good idea to put a church on top of them. I don't think it's a good idea, Mike. What about you?
Probably not a good idea.
Probably not. No. maybe a few hundred yards away, but on top, you are inviting problems later down the road, I feel like, you know?
Yeah, and you know, the architect, the guy who designed the church, you know,
Hmm.
kind of maybe foresaw some problems.
Yeah.
You know, so he designed this whole system to keep the evil locked in case it try, you know, that there's like in case it escapes, and so this evil presence doesn't infect the entire world. And infect is the operative word because it is like a disease in some ways.
Hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
how I guess you could have tied into demons, you know, the demons
Right.
trilogy.
That's right. Yes. I mean, hell, that could have literally been a part of the script. I mean, you kind of get the sense that he kind of started all over, but maybe maybe he didn't entirely start all over, and they kept a few things in. Yeah,
Yeah. So
the story.
yeah.
So yeah, then after that scene that takes place, ages earlier, we come to the present day, and we're inside this, said cathedral, and a new librarian, Evan, arrives, for his first day on the job, and we meet him, and we meet Lisa, lovely young woman who is restoring all the frescoes inside the church, and we meet this very surly bishop, and we meet the Father Gus. We meet all the characters as we jump to the present day, right?
Yeah, and Lottie.
And we meet Lotte, yes, played by Dario Argento. Um, it's funny. I guess you could also say this movie kicked off the weird relationship of like Dario putting his daughter through the ringer in all the movies he's related, like because she kind of goes through the ringer a little bit too in this movie, although certainly not to the extent of movies like Trauma, Stendhal Syndrome, and etc.
Yeah. And she's in the beginning, that scene that takes place in medieval Germany.
Yes.
She's
Yeah.
in that scene. She witnesses the whole thing.
Hmm.
Now there's some very cool parts of this thing that involve her and her reincarnation, because she's basically, Lottie is the reincarnated girl who witnesses the massacre of all these witches and the destruction of the town. And there's a scene when she meets Evan,
Hmm.
and she hands him these things to listen, and she's like, "Can't you hear the sound of the horses?"
Yes.
And
I
it's
remember.
like, so that I thought was like a little chilling, because it was like this, sort of memory from a past life.
Yeah, that's true. Why did she say that? Like, now that I think about that,
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
so is she literally reincarnated?
yeah.
Because I wasn't like,
Well, that's how I picked it up. I was like, yeah, she's like the reincarnated girl, because it's literally her. It's literally Aji Argento.
hmm
And she's the one who witnesses the destruction of the town, and that kind of, to me, like, connected those things, and that she has this remembrance, this like weird past life remembrance of the horses, the sound of the horses that the Teutonic Knights were riding.
huh,
Yeah.
interesting.
So, though this isn't like his strongest film, there's some cool stuff in it though, like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, like little things that you don't always, pick up on. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it's weird. The earlier Argentos, like, and I know this isn't his movie, but in some ways it kind of is his movie. You have your 70s kind of visuals and your 70s mentality and mindset, and even all the way almost up until like Tenebrae, which is 1982. But it had that weird feel where it was like you didn't really know when the hell it was taking place, like this weird futuristic kind of Italy.
Yeah.
This movie to me is like, like it's very late 80s, maybe early 90s. And it's weird to see Dario in this period for me. Like, you know what I'm saying? I had to kind of adjust myself to that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, because this is like the period where he made like Tenebrae and those types of films, I think. Right?
Yeah, this is like a year's, like about 6-7 years removed from Tenebrae. But I feel like, I don't know, where, like, I feel like this is a time where Dario was not necessarily doing his best work, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And he's not, you know, like the 80s were post Tenebrae. I think the 80s were a weird time for him. And then he, after this, he's going to go on to do the Two Evil Eyes, or I think he's kind of doing Two Evil Eyes literally right around the same time as this, the movie he did with Romero, which I like, but it was kind of a commercial failure, that movie,
Mm-hmm.
And then he does Trauma. He has his American Experience, which again does not really do very well. And he kind of never really makes a movie in America again, goes back to Italy and regroups. It's just the beginning of a weird period. And it's also, to me, the beginning of the shitty horror period. This was filmed in 88. It came out in 89. And I feel like by that time, horror has shit the bed. What do you think?
By 89.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that because a lot of, all of the 89 was not a good year for horror, no. And,
No, I mean, it's you're literally still getting the ass end of Freddy and Jason movies. Like,
right, but those are like, they're not the strongest entries into that.
No,
into
and
that.
you're getting Freddy, Jason, and you're getting Michael Myers movies in 88 and 89 because Halloween 4 and 5 is 88 and 89. So that's horror. It's like, and again, in some ways, this has its own kind of cool European twist to those movies. So it doesn't really have a lot in common with those movies, but it kind of brings to mind that the glory days are over. But the shining, the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, to me, is that I think Soavi is a competent director, and that the next thing up his sleeve is something fucking awesome.
Well, let me ask you a question. Is like, from the reading that you can do about this film, there was definitely a conflict, creative conflict with Argento and Soavi. Now, and I believe that Soavi was not happy with the way this film came out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Apparently, after this movie, the love affair, I call it, quote unquote, was kind of over between the two of them.
Yeah.
Argento has nothing to do with Cemetery Man. So yeah.
Now, the question I'm going to pose: do you think that we both pretty much agreed that Argento, this was not a good period for him?
Yeah.
That his involvement in this film might have been the reason why this film wasn't as good as it possibly could have been.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
It could be a host of reasons, The thing is, there's a few things on Wikipedia that talk about, like, also, like, Lamberto Bava also has a hand in this, because Lamberto Bava was a part of Demons 1 and 2. He was the director.
Right.
So you had Soavi, Bava, and Argento. Apparently, they were literally talking about a supposed Demons 3, and it fucking fell apart. I don't know the ins and outs of that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe Soavi was like, I just want to make my own fucking movie. Who knows? You could be right.
Yeah, that's the feeling I get, after digging into this a little bit more. So the modern day part of this film is not nearly as cool as the medieval part.
No, I mean, and the medieval part is very brief, and we kind of get we kind of go back to it a little bit, but we don't really go back to it as much as we are in that beginning, as where we're really, like, immersed in it. I mean, it really takes place in the late 80s,
Yeah, but the setup is good because, like, just to summarize, we got like this desecrated ground with evil, a church built on top of that, a failsafe designed by this architect, which will bring down the entire church and then lock the evil into, to safe off the rest of the planet from this impending doom that's possibly being released. Yeah. And then we have this guy, Evan, and a host of priests, and the precocious Lottie. And
Weird name.
it is a name. It doesn't really roll off the tongue. That, you know what I mean?
No.
And like most Italian names kind of roll off the tongue, and that one doesn't.
Latte. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lotte. Not latte with an A.
Yeah.
We're not ordering coffee.
No.
It's lotte.
Yeah.
I can't even say it.
And we have Lisa, who's the restorer of frescoes within this church.
Right.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. Look, I'm not really dazzled by anybody in the cast, except for Dario Argento. Pretty much because she's Dario Argento, and I go on, to be a big fan of hers, obviously. And she goes on to do some great stuff. But I guess, I don't know. The overall plot it's a good plot, right? It's a good story and it has a good beginning. But the middle and a good chunk of the middle towards the end is just very like, I don't know. It didn't hold my attention, I found myself being distracted. Although, again, I had seen the movie before, it was almost like seeing it for the first time because it had been so long, because that's what happens with my fucking head. And I was like, I don't know. I think I remembered a certain, the church, and this church that I got now was not a lovely church.
And where the action starts is the first guy to get, infected by this is Evan.
Evan, yeah.
Yeah. And he, similar to Demons, for those of you who haven't seen Demons, there's like basically a demonic infection. And that's kind of the same thing that happens to Evan. He gets
in a movie theater. Yeah.
Yeah. And instead of a movie theater, we have a church.
Right.
So he gets infected. He starts hallucinating certain things. And then as he attacks other people, they get infected. Lotte's father and mother become. Mm-hmm. But there's also this other idea of this actual demon, or this like Lovecraftian creature that lives beneath the ruins, beneath the church. Now that, to me, maybe it's just because I like those types of stories, that's like, would have been a way cooler thing. There was almost like a Prince of Darkness sort of vibe to this film too, where there's like some ancient evil, but it never quite gets paid off,
Prince of Darkness is definitely better, but I think Prince of Darkness is another example of a movie where the story and the idea is great, but I'm also not super in love with that movie either. Like I like the idea of that movie more than the movie, but I hear what you're saying.
What's funny about Prince of Darkness is I did not like that at first. But when I found myself thinking about that film a lot, and over the course of the years, after rewatching it, it's actually become one of my favorite Carpenter films.
Interesting. I actually would like to go back and rewatch his Vampires, that movie, which I even think I saw in the theater back in the day.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's got Laura Palmer in it.
Yeah. And I don't know. I love The Fog. I'd like to check out The Fog again. Fog's a great movie. I mean, that's kind of like undeniably good movie in the horror scene, obviously. But yeah, I kind of get what you're saying with the Prince of Darkness vibes. Yeah,
but once again, this film doesn't really deliver on that, But some of the good things about the church, though, is there is some pretty cool imagery. They don't. I think all Catholics, like all Roman Catholics, have this like. They're in awe of the Catholic religion. A lot of these filmmakers. So there's like cool Roman Catholic stuff in there, crosses and all this imagery in the church, and these slow motion scenes of this, abyss with the cross falling into it and everything.
Yeah.
But that's not enough for me to really embrace this movie fully.
No, I mean, there's some great visuals and again, some great ideas. And then there's some hokey stuff with the visitors of the church and the wedding lady, that whole thing. which I don't know. I feel like it's just again of its whack late '80s time period for horror.
And that's also another parallel to the Demons films, because if you think
Yeah.
about it, it's like in Demons, there's a movie theater, there's like a bunch of moviegoers,
Hmm.
and one by one they become victims. They either become victims and then they turn into these, demons, and that's similar to what happens in with these churchgoers. There's like this group of people that the church is like, this like tourist place, that tourist attraction. And they just happen to pick the wrong day to visit this church.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. You're 100% right. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. The movie actually has a bit of a downer side to it, if you really think about it too. With the ending, everyone dies,
Yeah.
with the exception of Lottie, which is again one of the more interesting parts of the film. Literally, everyone fucking dies, the whole cast, with the exception of Lottie. Did you notice that?
I did, and that's important because if you're, back, her role in this film is like the watcher, the observer.
Mm-hmm.
She's always, if you think about it, that character doesn't really have, like, she's not like an integral part of moving the story forward.
Mm-hmm.
She just kind of is the observer. She bears witness to everything.
Well, there's some semi-sketch scenes where,
Well, yeah.
yes, in the movie, which only goes to a certain level of sketch. But the listeners, when you watch the movie, you'll see what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some, possible, inappropriate sexual situations.
Yeah.
Which,
It's not.
it never
over the top,
gets,
though.
it doesn't
No, yeah.
go there, but there's
Right,
the peril. Lottie
Exactly.
is in danger,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, her other version of herself in the medieval Germany, she's the observer of the destruction of this town.
That's true. Yes.
The massacre of these, may or may. I mean, some of them were witches, and some
Right.
of them were, practicing their pagan ways. But some of that town were just regular people that the knights massacred. So,
Oh yeah, and in the movie, like Lisa, did she deserve to die? I mean, like,
No,
right?
They kill off
That
everyone.
was interesting. Yeah.
And once again,
know.
at the end of the film, Lottie is the one who observes the destruction of the church and the murder of all these people.
Mm.
But they, and that connection, like I wish they would have fleshed out her character more,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of built up that whole, the reincarnation angle, like that to me would have been a really cool thing to develop more in the movie,
Yeah, and what'd you think of Giovanni Lombardo Radice's character, Reverend Dominic? I mean, he not a lot to do, right?
They didn't utilize him fully.
No, they just kind of put him there as like, hey, there's that guy from horror movies from the decade earlier, whatever, years prior.
And also, this movie's 100 minutes long.
Mm-hmm. It's long, yes,
It's real long, and there's definitely some editing that could have been done to make this a little more streamlined too.
Oh yeah, dude. Like, again, there's some interesting scenes. Like, there's the demon rape scene. I mean, it's a little hokey, like the special effects, but I don't know. My memory of this movie was rather different, and I guess that's what happens sometimes, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do remember enjoying this a lot more than I did this last time I watched it.
Mm.
But I will go on record to say that there's some cool parts of this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some,
and it's funny.
Some Latin is spoken, which I always dig.
And it's funny, for a second film, I feel like his Stage Fright is such a better movie than this. Like,
Yeah,
Huh.
it's
Again,
probably his worst film, definitely.
Yeah, maybe too many cooks in the kitchen, maybe too much. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's interesting, right?
But after this, he became his own man, and
Totally.
Dellamorte Dellamore is a masterpiece, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's one of the best horror movies of the '90s, listeners. 100% from 1994. If you haven't seen it, seek it out. Cemetery Man is its U.S. name. Dellamorte Dellamore is its European title.
And even Cemetery Man, though it's really cut a lot, is still, you get the gist of the movie, though. You just don't have all the nudity that with Anna Fauci in it, really. And she's naked in that movie a lot. So,
so yeah, I mean, like I said, just like some of the really older movies where it's like your memory of it as a kid is like, this was the most shocking, crazy movie ever, and then you watched it and it was like, oh no, it was not. It's kind of how I felt about this movie. I think I enjoyed it in the late '90s, early '00s when I saw it, and then now, in 2022. It's like it's a weaker film compared to some of his other good films.
yeah.
What would you score The Church, Michael Hale?
I'm going to say 3.5 for this one.
3.5. Interesting.
Yeah.
I was going with a 2.5.
Really?
But I'm giving
wow.
But I'm giving. That was my initial thought actually after the last night, and I thought about it some more. And I thought about it this morning. And I went, no, I'm giving it a 3 because it's cool to see once. Again, if you're an Argento completist, if you want to see Aja's first, real movie, give or take, although she's in, it's actually not her first real movie. I think it's like her second movie. It's cool to check out, the music is interesting. Again, you have the combination of Emerson and Goblin, which is, rare. It's usually one or the other,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's one or the other, yeah.
Well, technically, her first movie is Demons 2. So it goes Demons 2 and then this. And she was in a movie in 1988 called Zoo, which God knows what that is. I have a funny feeling it is not a horror film. So see it for those reasons. I give it a 3. Yeah. It's worth a viewing, but ultimately I was let down because I feel like Soavi's other movies are just so much stronger.
I gave it a 3.5 just because there's some cool scenes in it that are cool. There are certain things about this that I like, but I don't like it enough to really back it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, he followed this up with The Sect in 1991, which is another film, again, I have not seen since the early O's. I may seek that out again. The plot of that is an American school teacher living in Frankfurt, Germany, finds herself at the center of a plot devised by a Luciferian cult. That's, hey, on paper, it's up our alley. It has a co-writing Argento credit. So I think that's his last hurrah with Argento, actually, not this. And it's got Pino Donaggio music. So that might be kind of cool to check out.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to have to look that one up.
Yeah, The Sect. Yeah. La Seta. Again, I saw both around the same time period, I think. From a friend of mine loaning me his Argento VHSs.
Good friend.
Oh, yeah, totally. But, hey, not everything's going to be a home run, Mike.
That's true, Mike. And, what are you going to do? Sometimes.
Yeah, we can't give 5s out to everybody, folks,
But I think
those...
I do think this is a good movie to have people aware of, though.
Yes, it is. Totally.
We're
not like these trophy parents handing out trophies to all of our kids. Some kids got to get a lower score, right?
To me, this movie is like a curiosity, and it's like, like I said, there's things I liked about it, but if you can check this out for free somewhere, definitely check it out.
It's on Tubi.
Oh, there you go.
That's where I watched it. Yeah, I thought I still had my DVD. I do not. Interestingly enough, his last directorial film credit was this big hit Christmas movie in Italy called The Legend of the Christmas Witch in 2018. How about that? Soavi. I would check that out if I ever was able to find it.
Tubi surprises me sometimes with how much stuff they have. Yeah, I mean, it's not the ideal way to watch a film with the advertising, but it's like, it's still better than. There's certain stuff on there that's good. They have good stuff on there sometimes.
Oh, and regarding his cameo in his own movie, he actually has an appearance in all of the films he directs.
Soavi?
And yes, and assistant directed prior to the year 2000.
Well,
so it's 90%.
I don't recall him in Dellamorte Dellamore. Is he like a zombie or something like that?
That's a good question, but it says, he makes cameos in all the films he directed. Or maybe he's like, how Raimi's brother was like a fake Shemp in one of the, like, maybe he's got like one of those kind of things where he's like a little creature or something in Dellamorte Dellamore, or he's part of the scenery.
Yeah.
Crazy. But, this was fun.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, guys.
Yes.
La Chiesa, a.k.a. The Church.
The Church. Check it out. Look, hey, I gave it a 3. Mike gave it a 3.5, which means you should see it. Right?
Yeah, there are certain films out there that I just would not recommend anyone wasting their time with. But this is definitely not a waste of time.
No, definitely not.
That's a really funny assessment of something. It's not a waste of time.
It's not a waste of time. We did not cover a movie that we don't want you to see. Okay? That is not what happened tonight.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But we just want to entertain you people. And hopefully we entertained you for an hour and change, right?
That's right.
Okie doke. We will see you maniacs next time. Thank you for the support. Please subscribe on either Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, and tell a friend, right, Mike?
That's right. Share and tell a friend.
Share.
Yep.
We will see you next time, Necromaniacs. Take care.
Take care, guys.